Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. Sadaqallahul azim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you to our sister Nila Maharani who has recited the Holy Quran for us. May Allah always give us guidance and help. Amin.
And the third agenda is speech. Let's give our greeting to Mrs. Taranindia Zulhi Amalia, MPD, the Chief of English Education Department. The golden stage belongs to you.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, Alhamdulillah, thanks to Allah that today we can gather at a nice occasion. Thank you for the chance giving to me. I would like to say hello to Mr. Shlansky. I'm sorry for my mistake for saying the name. Hello, Mr. Sam. Are you there? Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, suaranya itu. Hello, Mr. Sam. Belum masuk. Bami mana Bami? Asalnya belum masuk. Pesertanya belum masuk. Belum masuk. Belum itu harusnya make sure Bami peserta sudah hadir. Make sure belum. Tapi kan ada yang sudah masuk semua aja. Baik, okay, all the participants today, good morning. Alhamdulillah, today we can gather by online to learn about the culture, to learn everything about everything from Australia, from Mr. Sam Shlansky, hopefully Mr. Shlansky will bring a lot of knowledge, yeah, for us, especially relating to the development of youth from Australia. And actually, it is a time to share about their experience that actually in Indonesia and also Australia. And it is beneficial. It is really benefit for us, yeah, to know about what happened, yeah, in the Australia, especially in the development of youth, yeah. And thanks to Allah that actually we have hold some activities, yeah, to develop its programs, yeah. And of course, it is really give the valuable things, yeah, for us, especially for the participants of extra competitions, yeah, that we have already hold, yeah, around a week. There are many competitions, yeah. So it must give very new things, yeah, new experience for the participants, yeah, especially and for all of the students of English department of IAIN Kudus, yeah. It is a good agenda that actually we have to plan every year because it can encourage us, yeah, encourage us to perform, yeah, in the public, and we can learn and also develop our skill, yeah, especially in our English skills, yeah. There are many things like speech, yeah. We can develop our ability in giving speech, a good speech, so we can develop our speaking ability, and other things, other competitions. It's really give much contributions to develop our ability, yeah. And actually, the last agenda is a seminar that will be delivered by Mr. Shlansky. That really we have to we wait, yeah, because I'm sure that he will deliver many things, yeah, related to the to his profession, yeah. And he is sorry. So the invited speaker today, Mr. Shlansky, is a director of partnership and management Australia-Indonesia Youth Association. Yeah. So actually, it is related to our programs, our ESA week that will be finished with the seminar, and it is really there is a correlation, yeah, between our program that we have already conducted previous last week. So it is related to the youth, yeah. It is related to the development of youth. So Mr. Shlansky will share about the experience engaging, yeah, with the Australia-Indonesia connections. Hopefully, we have many friends, yeah, like Mr. Shlansky that will open us our correlations, yeah, to with the Australia, and we can we can conduct, yeah, we can continue our relationship between Indonesia and Australia with another agenda, and hopefully it can give a contribution related to development of the youth itself. So actually the one thing that actually we cannot we cannot touch, or actually we do not know the relation, we do not know, or we haven't involved with the international competition. So it is that's something that we have to discuss later, because actually we have to share, we have to share our experience, internationally. So actually it is a weaknesses, that we compete, we join the competition, but in Indonesia only. So we need much more what is it, information related to it. Actually international, that will bring us to a good accreditations, because the measurements of accreditation to be accredited well is the relationship with the Western or other institution, outside or international, international institutions. So hopefully this is a beginning that will it will be continued everywhere. Last year actually we have already conducted with the Australia speakers also, and we talked much about the speaking, how to boost our speaking ability. I'm sorry, I forgot with the native speaker. Hello, Mr. Sam Shlansky. Hi. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay. I would like to say welcome to Mr. Sam Shlansky. Thank you very much for the occasion, for the times that actually it is really great for us, because we have you in our seminar. Actually, Mr. Sam, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Mrs. Alpu. I'm the representative of the head of English department of IAIN Kudus. Okay, I would like to highlight a little bit about our institution. Our institution, actually, we are the new department. We have already established at 5 years, 2017, and actually, thanks to God that we have graduated. There are some students that have graduated, for the last 2 years. And actually, Mr. Sam, this is a seminar that actually it is conducted by the students or English department of IAIN Kudus. And why I do, invite Mr. Sam Shlansky, because actually there are correlations. Actually, we have already conducted some program, Mr. Sam. It is competition. It is English competition that we have conducted. Within a week, and hopefully it's really meet. To have you here, because we want to know about the development of the youth actually, in the Australia. So we have conducted ETSA week competitions, and there are many competitions that we have held. For example, there is speech, and then role play, and then news anchor, and what else? Sing a song, sing a song. So it is hopefully it is a way, for us, to develop our skill, especially in our English, because actually English is our foreign language. So I wonder how to how to encourage our students to learn, beyond the class. So it is programs, yeah, what is it, per year, yeah, we hold competitions, yeah, English competitions. So I would like to know more about actually what about the how to the development of the youth itself, yeah, in the Australia. So actually last year we have invited a speaker from Australia also, but I'm sorry I forgot. Siapa namanya? Iya, siapa namanya? Do you still remember the speaker from Australia last year? Simon, Miss, yeah, Miss Simon King. Yeah, we invited her to share and also to learn by online, yeah, related to the speaking ability, how to improve our speaking ability, yeah, from native speaker. So today we would like to know more about the activities in the development of youth actually in the Australia. Hopefully, Mr. Sams, we have what is it? Many informations, yeah, related the development of the youth itself and exchange, for example, yeah, if it can be, yeah, an international competition, for example, because actually we have a limited information related to it. Actually, international competition and also international collaboration like this, we really need it to boost ourselves to have a high score in accreditation. So thank you very much, Mr. Sam, for today. Really, it's give available things for us, for my students, and yeah, welcome to Indonesia by online. Okay, I do really want to see you maybe there, yeah, someday. Yeah, thank you very much for the occasions and the times and also the knowledge that will be given for us. Thank you very much, Mr. Sam, and have to enjoy the seminar and also discussions, yeah, for all my students, yeah. Okay, from me, thank you very much. Goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Sip. Hi, so I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. Nice to be back in Indonesia virtually, unfortunately not physically. And yeah, thank you for the comprehensive introduction as well. So I'm going to speak English, partly because I don't get a lot of chance to practice my Indonesian, so it's not super lancar banget all the time. So I wanted to share a short PowerPoint just to explain who I am and where I've been. Would someone from the faculty show the PowerPoint lately, or should I bring it up? I'll just present if I can. All right, wrong. All right. So I'm just going to share a short little slideshow just to give you guys something to read as you listen, and that might help. So my background is that I came from the US, moved to Australia when I was very little, which is why I sound very Australian most of the time. And I have done quite a few things to get to where I am today. I've worked in the social sector for a lot of that time, working with young people and really working to support young people. But I have come from a country town and gone to many desa kecil di Indonesia, a lot of very small places in Indonesia doing lots of different little things. And actually today I'm back in my village, back in Warrnambool, where I grew up, visiting family this week. So let me advance that. There we go. So really, it's nice to like look at a thing and go, oh, it's super straight and easy and direct. The reality is it's not. And it's easy to look back and see how it all connects. But when you're going through it, there's no need to try and make things connect. You'll have all sorts of experiences, and the key is to just keep trying, keep having experiences. That's how youth develop. That's how everyone develops. It's the afternoon here, very Melbourne person I am. I like to have a little coffee in the afternoon, keep me going. So I'm not going to expect you guys to sit down and read all of this. You guys can, you can all enjoy having the slides for free afterwards to take away and pull apart. But the real key is that this timeline goes from a past, not here, not now, and it's going to a future I haven't described, haven't worked out yet. And that's okay. And the other part of this that is worth explaining, especially, like I used to be an English teacher. It's one of the many past jobs I've done. I've taught English in Indonesia. I've taught English teachers in Indonesia. Learning English is going to be hard, but I've also done a lot of things that are really hard and have really sucked. But it's only by doing those really hard things that I've learned a lot. And I didn't want to do this as like a really academic presentation, because I could talk about, you know, your growth zone and what it feels like, and I could go into some very detailed things, but I want to keep this a little light and easy for us today. But do use the chat box if I am unclear, and do write your questions down as we go. And I would love questions at the end. I really like questions. I'd much rather dialogues than monologues. All right, so I'm gonna march forward. And so these are some photos from when I was very little. I'm not so little anymore. I'm actually probably still quite a lot shorter than that guy. He's huge. When we went to Malaysia together, which is this photo, there was a lot of people who really liked getting photos with him and left me alone, which was great. But then later on, I went to Indonesian people. It was really fun. This is me though, when I first moved to Australia, and I look like just another, like, you know, Wong Putih, white dude in a big crowd of white kids, but I was really different. I'd migrated, I was hard of hearing, so I struggled to talk with people. I had to learn English at a very late age. And a lot of people noticed that. A lot of kids found me a bit odd because I spoke a bit funny. I didn't understand them. They spoke Australian, not English. You know, they spoke Australian English. And so it was really exciting when I got to high school, and there was this thing called Bahasa Indonesia. And in Australian high schools, we usually learn one Asian language and one European language, and then we have to choose later on. And for me, I started studying Indonesian and I found it interesting. It also helped the grammar is a bit easier than French, and the words are a little bit more straightforward than French. And for me, it was just a chance to, this sounds very, it sounds almost like poetry, I guess, but it was, for me, it was a chance to realize that I wasn't the only one that was a bit different. There was this whole country of people that were a bit different to the people I grew up with, and they liked a lot of the same things. And as I got older, I got to realize the more different I thought they were, the more the same we are. All young people, whether in Australia or in Indonesia, we all love sports, we all love films, we all love, you know, our versions of Sinetron. We all love our versions of dangdut. Maybe Australians don't love dangdut itself. Maybe Australians don't like durian, but we do like Vegemite. And for me, I would rather durian than Vegemite. And so it's through those shared differences, which might sound like an oxymoron, which is a nice English phrase, that I started to kind of find who I wanted to be. I didn't know how to get there, but I kind of had an idea. And I did a lot of volunteering all the way through school. And that was also how I started to understand who I wanted to be and who I wanted to be around and all these good things. I did a lot of pramuka. So I did scouts for nearly 20 years because my mom was like, you need friends. Thanks, Mom. You need friends, go make friends, go to scouts. In Australia, scouts isn't so cool and not everyone does it, but I made a lot of really good friends through scouts and through Indonesian and going to Malaysia as a Indonesia experience in high school because of diplomacy issues at the time. In 2010, the relationship between Australia and Indonesia was very low. It was very poor. There was not a very good friendship in the relationship. When I went to university, one of the lecturers I met, he talked about the Australia-Indonesia being benci tapi rindu, being a love but longing, love but hate relationship. And I didn't understand that at the time. At the time, I was just annoyed I couldn't go to Indonesia and eat satay. But I went to Malaysia and had a go at speaking Indonesian to Malaysians, which was an experience to learn their very different languages, actually. And there was some miscommunication a few times. And also them just generally being like, we speak English, like, please stop. And there's a lesson for you guys there, which is about persistence. Sometimes you might make some mistakes, but you'll learn from your mistakes as well. So that was me as a small munchkin, as a child. You're going to learn some slang along the way in this presentation, by the way, because my family in the US, by the way, part of the reason why I was so different is because I come from very Eastern European family, and the part of Australia that I grew up in is very West European, is very British. Lots of English people, lots of Irish people, or like by ancestry. They're turun going generations back. And so I really stood out, and I would use lots of Yiddish, which is Jewish slang growing up, and people didn't know what I was saying. But that's part of who you are. So there's a lesson in it, which is about community. You can really only, youth can only really develop, and you as a person can only really develop with community, because that's your safety net. You know, that's what makes it possible to keep failing, to keep trying, and to keep exploring. And it's that persistence that will keep things going. And it was a huge thing that bridges, I think, Australian and Indonesian culture, like a really central, you know, jembatan antar budaya kita, a real bridge between our cultures is the importance of community. Indonesia has a lot better words for community and phrases around community, like the concept of a gotong royong. I use that in my work all the time when we're having problems. I say, we just got to be gotong royong as a group. And then I explain to them, you know, the whole community's got to work as one entity on one problem to get things happening as one. And they love that because they get it. They get that community is important. And it makes it a lot less scary. For me, it made it a lot less scary going to Malaysia with some school friends. If I just went as a 15-year-old on my own with no community, I probably wouldn't have gone at all, or I wouldn't have gone very far with Indonesian. And it was also that community that made it possible in the next chapter in my life, which was moving to Melbourne. And Melbourne is huge for me. Like I was born in a massive city, but I was raised in a very small city, very small town, really. And like when I was 18 and I ended up moving for an awful job that didn't last very long. They didn't pay me very well. And I didn't really know anyone before going to class. But again, it was connecting with Indonesians, connecting with other people. So these are some people from my accommodation. So we don't really have kos-kosan in Australia, but we have that same sort of thing. We call it residential colleges or res. And residential college or res was a chance for me to meet other international students, meet other rural or regional country kids, and be able to go out and try new things, going to uni events. This is IAIN, which is an Australia-Indonesia Youth Association, where I've done a lot. I was with them for about 6 years. This is Krakatau's, which is an Australia-Indonesia AFL club, a football club, where we play Australian rules football with Indonesians and Australians together. It's no contact, lots of fun. I'm not very good, and I was one of the tallest people in our club. And we just had a good time introducing Indonesians to Australia, Budaya Australia as well. And it's again, that sort of community, it's that willingness to explore that allows things to develop. So when I came to Melbourne, I was just recently had founded. It was only maybe a couple of years old, and it was a couple of people, it was a few people around Australia who had this idea, and then me and my friends got involved, and over 6 years we built it up, and it's now doing its own thing. I'm not involved, and they are in Australia, every state and territory in Australia, as well as in Indonesia, in I think 5 or 6 provinces in Indonesia as well. And so you can find a chapter online, you can become a member very cheap, and join in lots of exclusive activities. There's a language exchange, which I used to run, and that led to me becoming an English teacher at one point, because I was facilitating and teaching English and Indonesian in the same room, teaching English and Australian culture. And I suppose one of your questions was, how do we motivate people? Find what excites you. That's all it is. Whatever excites you, do it in the language you're learning, and you will be excited to learn your language. It'll make sense. It'll be relevant. Because otherwise it's just concepts, otherwise you're like, oh, cool, I'm learning about engineering in Australia, woo, and you don't care about bridges as long as they stay standing. Like, you got to find what excites you. And for me in Indonesia, it was development work, it was community work. So the lesson out of this was people power. Building on that community and really getting charged up, getting electrified, getting excited by meeting people, because it makes it really just valuable. It's kind of the point, I think, of learning a language, is to connect. To connect not just mind to mind, not just be like, I can do business with you, but also to connect like heart to heart. Like, I can understand you, and jiwa to jiwa, I can get you at a deeper level, and we can actually become maybe even almost friends, or friends truly. Like, I've made plenty of friends. That's what's made staying in Melbourne possible. Lots of people in my hometown go to Melbourne for a year and then return because they made no friends, they had no connections, they had no reason. For me, I had an Indonesian community, I had lots of reasons to stay. But I also learned how to be really humble. As a white dude, it's pretty easy for me to be really confident and say I know what's going on when I don't. Indonesian was the time for me to really practice. I don't know what's going on. Can someone please help me understand? And people do. People want to help. It makes them feel valuable. So be humble. Ask hurts no one. At the very least, you learn, and you learn, if they're not going to help you, then you learn who to ask next time, not that person. Keep asking really interesting questions, keep curious. So this helped me with my language skills. It helped me to become more aware. It helped me to develop as a young person, but it also helps all young people to develop. as well. So I've been to Indonesia a few times, and these are the three main times I've been to Indonesia. So the first time I actually traveled with some friends I met at university, because my university wouldn't let us go abroad on a formal program. And so we just organized something with the help of one of our lecturers. And that was fun. But also, this is the photo from that trip and this photo as well. We went thinking we were going to do sort of this stuff, and we ended up doing a lot of this stuff. We thought we were going to hang out, do some cultural things, meet some Indonesians, make some friends. We did a lot of study, a lot of work. We did like a formal language program. This is us eating dinner on top of, you can see some dictionaries and computers, finding out what we do and don't like. Also finding out what we do and don't know was a huge part of that trip. There's an academic concept, which is known unknowns. And it's just the idea that you need to know what you don't know in order to know new things, if that makes any sense. It's the idea that the first step to knowing is knowing that you need to know. And that was a lot of this trip, realizing I had so much to learn, everything, like even from, you can see a mistake I've made here. I cringe, I get upset with myself. I've made a mistake here. I rolled the sleeves up on my batik shirt, naughty. That is not good batik practice. But I was hot. I also made a mistake. I bought a lined batik shirt. So it was one of those nice thick batiks that you wear in the cooler season, or if you're up in Gunung Merapi or somewhere like that. Made a few mistakes. I bought these jeans in Indonesia because I didn't realize Indonesia gets cold. It does at night. I actually get cold in Indonesia. I went to a wedding and didn't have anything to wear to a wedding. And so I was wearing like shorts and a t-shirt to a wedding, and it was just wildly inappropriate. You learn because people, because community, because you want to. And so when I went this time, I had some people, these guys I still talk to once in a while. This was a long time ago now. And, you know, like still keep in touch with people. And it was going over there and really learning how to connect was how I made it work. And I was there for 6 months with teachers. So as far as youth development programs, they send Australians to Indonesia for in-country study. And if you're in Yogyakarta, if you're studying at UGM or any of the different universities there, UNY and all of that, you can volunteer with them as a pendamping, and you can build your English skills that way while studying. And as a pendamping, you help us find kos-kosan, you help us navigate the city, find your favorite restaurants, and just generally have a first friend that is Indonesian. It's incredibly meaningful opportunity for people to get involved. And now with COVID sort of settling down, Australians have returned after a few years of a break. So Achichis was incredible. When I did Achichis, that was like, I know it's a bit like sinetron saying this, but it was like really life-changing, because it was when I went from, I kind of know what I like helping people, to knowing that that's actually a job, which is community development, and learning about that job for the first time. Because I did program KKN sama UGM. So I did kerja nyata in a small community just outside of Yogyakarta, up in the Gunung Merapi, in the foothills of Merapi, in a place called Randasongo. Lots of pohon salak, so don't fall off the road because you will get spiked. And we ate a lot of salak, because once they liked us, they gave us lots and lots of salak, which was lovely, but you can only eat so much salak until you become a salak. And the thing was, yeah, I spent 2 months doing program KKN after 2 months of learning what is development studies. And it was intense and it was fun. And I realized I really wanted to work with young people. And so I went on to study in that area and really refine my focus. And it was, again, because of people, because of community, because of Indonesians, because I was willing to kind of suck and not know what I was doing, but I was also really open to trying. And the biggest thing I had to learn there was that people don't all speak Indonesian in Indonesia. And it's the same thing when you're in Australia. Not all Australians speak clear English. Some sound very unclear. Some don't speak English very much, actually, like in the cities. You actually meet people who hang out with, like I live in a very famously Chinese part of Melbourne, and there are people who don't actually speak English very often who live up there. They just hang out in their Chinese community and just speak Mandarin all the time. And so I've had times when I've tried to talk to someone and try and get something for someone, they just don't know what I'm asking them. You learn how to navigate these things, and you learn that good Indonesian lesson, senyum, just keep smiling and having a go. Coba lagi, try again. So yeah, Tadris was incredible, life-changing. I came back, finished uni because I had university, because I had to. I just felt compelled to. I did some study. I did a thing which is like a bit like skripsi, but it's more optional and it's more selective, and we call it honors. And it's a final year in arts, and other majors, other faculties offer a program like it called honors. And so I did that, did some research, and realized I'm not going to be a researcher. Not really cut out as a peneliti. Yeah, I wasn't the most academic. And so I went and enrolled in another program, which you guys might be familiar with, which is Pertukaran Pemuda Indonesia Australia, or IAIN, Australia-Indonesia Youth Exchange Program. And so for the Indonesians, they get an extra month in Australia, and then we meet them and then spend 2 months in Indonesia. And so this is a photo of me in Sulsel, in Sulawesi Selatan, near Pantai Bira. And that was gorgeous and lovely part of the world. Learning and working with people, and like this is my first time meeting a policeman dressed like this. And learning about how, I lived next door to mosques and lived with Indonesians of all different types. When I was in Yogyakarta, I had a mosque loudspeaker directly into my kos-kosan. I got a very good deal on my rent, and I wondered why until 4 a.m. the next day after I'd signed the lease. But here, it was so interesting to see how it worked in Sulawesi, and to see like there was this fundamental, very hardcore Islam that I wasn't familiar with, and they were very radical and very upset that I wasn't Muslim, my host family, and things like that. And there was new things to navigate, and that's exciting. When you think you've got it and you keep getting challenged, you keep learning, you keep growing, and that's exciting. You keep that in mind as you struggle through the language, and you think, yeah, I know what's going on, and then you meet someone, they say something and you don't know what's going on, you go, cool, I can still learn. That's the mentality that keeps you going. It's called a growth mindset. The idea that I don't know yet, I will know. So I spent some time, again, a couple of weeks in a rural community, and then I went to UNEM, and I taught English, and I hung out with my host family. I wish I had some photos of my host mom. She was really cool. She was like one time I came home and she was like listening to like some gangster rap and preparing satay, because she knew that I really like satay. And I asked her about the rap music, and she's like, because I like rap music. And I was like, she's like 60-year-old like Nana, Nanette, just busting to like gangster rap and making satay. And I was like, this is Indonesia. And she got really upset. And she like put on her like jilbab as she's like listening to like gangster rap. I was like, all right, like, cool, Indonesia, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, love it. So that's a lot about self-awareness, about knowing yourself. I'm just going to give you a second to read that while I once again take a dramatic sip. It's getting cold. So learning about yourself, sadar diri, self-awareness, that's really key to language learning, to connecting across cultures. It took me forever to be sure of what I could do and what I actually wanted to do. And as you go through like connecting and doing programs and competitions, you'll learn the difference, you know, because they're two separate things. And where they overlap, that's where purpose comes from. But, you know, they'll overlap and they'll intertwine, but there's two separate things: what you can do and what you actually want to do. Finding that overlap, you'll find some purpose and some way forward. So take the time, try new things, be open. You know, the makin buka, makin bisa, the more open, the more possible things are. So it's really with that I was able to then work out, what do I want to do for work? How do I want to take this interest in working with young people and turn that into something that actually pays me? You know, the overlap between what do I want, what am I able to do, and what will actually pay me money. We all want that at some point. You know, a bit of a gaji can help you actually, you got to eat today to change tomorrow. And so it wasn't always that I worked purposefully and changed the world through my job, and I still don't. I've done lots of really, really, really random jobs. And the thing is, like, I worked at the AEC, so that's a part of the, I was a pegawai negeri, I was a public servant. And the only way I actually got to be a public servant was partly Indonesia, but partly my random jobs, because most people who come into the public service are nerds, are very intellectual people. And I wasn't really, like, I mean, I was smart enough, but the thing that stood out for them was that I'd done all these manual labor jobs. I'd worked in warehouses and things like that, and they needed that. Because in Australia, just like in Indonesia, the democratic election is a massive undertaking. It's a massive, massive exercise. And so they needed to be able to do lots of random things. But it's only because of Indonesia that I had that openness, that sense of community, that people, that self-awareness, all of those things, that I could actually go and do random stuff. And that looked really well. That looked really good on my resume. You know, when I went for other roles, I eventually became the CEO of an organization called Marco Polo Project, which is all about connecting local and global young people together, doing workshops on time management, on communication skills, on project management skills, human-centered design, design thinking, all sorts of really cool stuff. So I designed, delivered, and facilitated programs. You can see that's me doing that sort of work. I've been told I have very funny hands when I do things in person. You can tell I've done a bit of saman dancing in the past because my hands do some fun things. And at the same time, I was still volunteering, still very active in other areas. So this is like a presentation at Monash University, that's their logo in the background. And I was advocating for the role of young people in the dialogue around research and saying, look, hey, if you want to learn about Indonesia, you need to really engage young people in your research because you're only getting so much view. You're only seeing it from the old white man perspective, maybe get some Indonesians involved, maybe get some, you know, and those sort of things. That was part of a lot of the work that I did, the unpaid work. And that's really key as well when you think about how do you leverage youth development. Don't just think about how do I get paid. Think about how you can get experience, and don't be, you know, shy to sometimes do things for the experience if you're stretching and learning. And that's really the kind of mentality that, you know, I've got awards from our Victorian Multicultural Christian, so from the government, for the way I've been connecting Australians and Indonesians. I've picked up a few awards over the years. But for me, it's really things like this. This is my dear friend and mentor. I don't have his face in here for no good reason, but this is Julian. And he is the one who really kind of guided me along and has been a lot of the reason I've done all these cool things. But it's also myself. And it's also, you know, like the language might not always be center of mind, but it's always about those culture skills that you develop. And that's how I can do like fundraising. So I haven't written it here because I might get in trouble if I tell you all, but I'll tell you anyway, because I don't care. I'm a little knacker once in a while. So in my job, I've been doing it for about 2 years. And when I started the organization that I work for, Youth in Search, they had about $2 million coming in grants. In this year, since January, I've secured nearly $8 million in funding for them. So 4 times as much. And that's not to brag, that's not to be sombong. What that is that's how I've been able to take all of my experience and boil it down to one thing that I'm really good at, which is communication. Because that's all it is with fundraising and with a lot of jobs, is how do you take one culture, your customer's culture, and translate it to your workplace's culture, or the other way around. Because culture is bigger than a passport. It's not just where are you from, it's also where are you going, it's where have you been. Culture is bigger than a passport. And if you know another language or other languages, you're going to be better at traveling between these cultures and guiding people through them, and you're going to be valuable for that. So culture is really the key to language, to developing as well. So it's this idea. Connecting with respect. You know, people used to say, oh, you just need to connect. No, you need to connect with respect, but with permission. You know, I think it's too often people kind of go, oh, tell me about X. I want to know X. And it's like, well, actually ask them. I'm curious, would you mind explaining? Would you mind helping me to understand? Where might I find out more information about? And consulting people in that way. So part of that is being willing to act first. Respect is about bridging people and thinking about the person. If I was them, how would I like to be asked a question? Would I like to be asked a question? Would I like to be consulted? Would I like to work with that person? That's empathy. It's only with empathy that you can really connect. And it's also about like connecting ideas. So we often think about like mind maps and things like that. Like here's a concept, connect to this concept. But the reality is that it's much more complicated. And I think of it as like a constellation of ideas. It's more 3D, more multidimensional, and it's harder to have the one right idea. That's part of respect. You're not right, they're not right. We're both right now. We both are correct as it is. And it's really where the intersection of your truths are. That's where the interesting conversations happen. That's where you can explore. Okay, so you believe this, I believe this. Well, let's explore a truth where we both are right. And that's how you develop a really interesting career. That's how you develop a really interesting opportunities, you know, and you're able to sail through the unknown. You're able to launch off into the unknown because you're connecting things. All right, so that's more or less where I am. Ask me questions if you would like. I'm going to, yeah, that's the last slide. I'm just gonna stop screen sharing if I can remember how. There we are. I don't know if there's questions in the chat box or. I think you're on mute, Tuti. Siapa berani, siapa mau bertanya? If you're not feeling too brave, you can also use the chat box and you can ask me a question there as well. Ooh, we got some echo. I like that someone. Maybe use the chat box for your question. Sounds like you're getting some feedback, digital feedback. I'm gonna ask, how do I adapt with different things? Tuti Sophia has asked that. So how I've adapted with different things, it's not just being flexible, because I think people often talk about you've got to be flexible. And why I would be careful in saying it's just be flexible is because often that ends up being, you got to change who you are to fit whoever you're working with, and then you lose yourself. So sometimes what it is it's that self-awareness of knowing this is who I am and adapting by being open to what's going on around you and picking what do you adopt and being selective about what you kind of pick up and adopt and how you use it. You don't have to actually make every experience part of you as a person. It can be part of your map to guide you as you go through experiences. And having that in mind, you don't have to change who you are. You don't even have to change your accent. Your accent is awesome. It's so much of, you know, who you are. And so adapting is learning how much do you actually want to change? How much do you actually need to change to be understood, to be respectful, to be able to connect? And so that's really what adapting for me is. It's about adopting experiences to guide me to become more me. Good question.
Okay, so thank you for your answer.
Hello, any other question? Good discussion. Mr. Sam, actually related to the question from Mbak Tuti, I think there is a correlation with the fear, I think. What do you think, Mr. Sam, that actually for the first time that we have to go outside for the abroad and to know the new persons and the new culture, and it is related to the fear and the mental, I think. Though actually there are many things like language itself, but a courage or a mental, I think there are many students that is not ready to prepare their mentality. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question about the mental effort. And it's a bit like any skill. Any skill, you got to try to grow. And like, you just got to get into that mindset. And part of it is shifting from a fear mindset, which is based on a fixed, I will never know, I will never succeed, I will never be able to a growth mindset. And that's a mindset that's curious, that's excited, that I'm not excellent yet. I will get better. I will learn. I will expand. And naturally, there is fear. And so a really simple exercise is you can write down whatever your goal is, and then write down what's 10% of that goal. Now, what's 10% of that is 1%. That's the next thing I'm going to do to get out of the house and try. So it might be that there's a shopping mall that you know a lot of international people are at, and your goal is to talk to a cashier in English and order in English. That's a big goal. That's huge. So what's 10% of that? It might be to go in and read the menu in English. What's 10% of that? What's 1% of your big goal is to go into the cafe. Just to go to the cafe is actually part of getting on your goal, and to get over that fear. You don't have to achieve huge things right away. Just go into the cafe, order, sit in the corner and listen with your ears open to the conversations in English that are happening around you. Just doing that. And you might not understand everything, but you start there. And then the next time you might go in, you read the menu in English and you read off the menu. That's 1% more, and so on. And so it's that idea that I'm not perfect yet. I'll never be perfect, but don't let perfect get in the way of good is the biggest one with that as well. My current boss, he loves to tell us that all the time, just do it. So that would be some of the mentality about doing new things and connecting when you really don't know what's going on. You know, I've been there. I've been in rooms where they don't speak English, they don't speak Indonesian, they don't speak Javanese, they speak Java Desa, and no one in that group could actually speak to them. What do we do? Well, what's our 1% solution to that? You know, and we've worked through it. We got there. We found local young people who could speak English, could speak Indonesian and Java Desa, and so we made friends with them. But yeah, awesome question. Thank you for it.
Okay, any other questions so far? Come on. Yeah, I do agree with you, Mr. Sam, that actually let's just do what we want going to do. Let's in the cafe, what we want to have a drink. Maybe for the first time we have have a water, and then let's next step maybe for the tomorrow to find something else. Yeah, actually. The first experience that actually can encourage us, our mental, to do another what is it, another things to do. So actually for example, I went to Makassar alone, last week, and really it really needs a courage for me. And actually I'm brave because maybe there is an experience before that's actually I'm with my friends go to the Philippines, and I've already known about how to manage ourselves in the airport, and some other things. Then actually last week I have to decide that I have to go alone by myself without any other friends, and I did it, and that's some experience really courage, give courage us. So the first thing that we have to do is just do at the first times. And so maybe next times we'll lead you. Okay.
And I think you've also, you've also touched on a good point there, which is to share, as well with your friends or share with others about your experiences. Because that's
Yeah.
that part about people and community is if you're sharing, then you're motivating. And, you might also get some tips. You might say, oh man, I went and did this thing and I made this mistake. And someone else goes, I did that too. And then someone else goes, yeah, me too, I did that. And you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Okay, cool. It's like a really normal thing. What did you do when you made a mistake? Oh, I did this, I did this. Beautiful. Like now we're working together. I'll go to Yusril after Gufron. So
Ada yang bertanya yang tadi ya?
you said, I want to ask, what culture shock have you experienced in Indonesia? So many. Oh my gosh. The list. Like probably some of the funnier ones are things like the first time I went to Indonesia and they put us in a car and 2 hours later after driving through countryside and our phones no longer working and us just having to go, okay, we might be getting kidnapped. It's very pretty. And we turn up in this school and it's a Sekolah Dasar Muhammadiyah. And they're like, teach. And we're like, what? And they're like, teach. And so we taught an English lesson. And then we thought we were going to at least, it was me and 5 friends. We thought we'd be together. And then, nope, each one in one classroom. And the kids were very, shy. And I tried to say, I was early in my Indonesian journey. And I tried to say an Australian phrase directly translated into Indonesian, and they all, a few of the girls started crying, and I felt very awkward, very bad. And the teacher said, "I know what you were trying to say. I was in Australia for my Masters of Education. It doesn't translate because in Australia we would say, don't worry, I don't bite. Don't translate that in Indonesian because it suggests that you might bite." I learned. So yeah, I made some kids cry. That was probably a big shock for me in Indonesia. Or I think like just the shock people had with like me growing a beard. People got really in Australia, it's kind of cool. In Indonesia, I got people being like, so are you an imam or a cleric? Like, and I was like, no, like you work at the pesantren? No. And so there was little shocks around grooming and things like that, or just shocks in like how to get around and transport. Like when I was in Makassar, like getting around in Makassar was so different to getting around in Java. I was like, I'm still in Indonesia, but getting around in Makassar, there is like very little, like you can't use stuff like Grab. You got to be when I was there was like lots of riots from the taxi drivers. So you had to be really careful using Grab. But I was also shocked how lovely people were, like the Bugis, the Bugis people, the stereotypes are sometimes true. Like the amount of people that were like Bugis and would just pull over and throw me on the back of their motorbike because they didn't like that I was walking in suburban Makassar. And they would always and I always found that very shocking because like in Melbourne, that would be like, I'm getting kidnapped. I'm a very small person and I'm very like conscious that like I can't fight anyone. I'm also very like, I'm a very, very strong person. And so I'm just kind of like, oh, well, I died today, but I've at least had an adventure. But no, all the boogers, they would never take payment or anything. Like I tried to buy them coffee and they would never take a coffee. They'd never take payment. They're like, no, we're boogers. This is just what we do. I just love that. But yeah, I could go on and on. But Yusril, you're waiting very patiently. What's your question?
So I'm really curious about one thing. Is the grade system in Australia and Indonesia are the same? As you mentioned earlier, we have KKN for the senior student and so on. So if there are any different system about college between Australia and Indonesia, do we need to adapt the new system if we somehow got scholarship in Australia? Thank you.
It's a really cool question. Thank you. So the systems are pretty different because ours is based on an British idea of university, and yours is based on a Dutch idea of university. And we can talk about colonialism in a different talk, but that's the reality. So you guys, when you go through university, you have whatever years it takes to finish your base, and then you have Skripsi, and then depending on your university, you might have program KKN. Lots of universities have some version of program KKN. In Australia, you have your base, which is 3 years for an arts, 4 years for pretty much everything else. And then there's during that time, you can go overseas and study. And there's scholarships, there's various ways to do it. And there's no real limit on where you can go as long as there's a program and a partnership between your universities. And that you can explain how that experience relates to your studies. So when I went to Indonesia, I got very good at sales because they couldn't understand how doing development studies fit with, I was doing linguistics in Indonesian units, and they couldn't understand how development studies was part of linguistics. I'm very into what's called sociolinguistics, or how humans use language. I'm not very interested in like, you know, semantics and grammar and all these like bitsy parts, what we call like formal linguistics. That's fine. Like I know it because I was an English teacher, but so I got very good at convincing them. But most Australians will go abroad at least once in their, what we call their undergraduate or their bachelor's. And some, if you do very well, will get offered what's called honours, which is like Skripsi, but it's 1 year long and you only have 1 year to do it. You can't get extensions usually to continue Skripsi. If you don't finish it, you fail it, which is a little bit tough as well. Other than that, like, it's a bit similar to Indonesia in that everyone will usually will move out of home unless they're in the same city. And there are, like, I'm American, so I find it weird how many Australians study in the same city that they've always lived in, and they live in their parents' houses while they're at uni. I find that very odd, because in America, no one stays in their hometown or their home state to go to college or go to university. But lots of Australians will move around and join international students living in residential colleges, which is like kos-kosan, but much more structured, much more organized. And there are all the clubs and sports opportunities and all of those sort of things on campus. And like, I've done a lot of stuff with tbi.iainkudus.ac.id, Perhimpunan Pelajar Indonesia Australia, particularly here in Melbourne, with the different campuses, and really challenged them because, really challenged them because I was like, you guys are making it too easy to basically move to Australia but stay in Indonesia. It was too easy for them to just kind of hang out with Indonesians and keep speaking Indonesian. The entire point of coming to Australia should be to not just study, but to actually experience English culture, like Australian culture, and an English-speaking world. And it's a little bit more easygoing, maybe. Like, the academic culture is a little bit more laid back, maybe than Indonesia in some ways, but definitely more laid back than if you go to like Oxford or, you know, go somewhere in the UK. There's a lot of pressure to excel because they're more expensive. But there's more prestige and all of that as well, going somewhere in the UK or the US. So that's another big difference in Australia. Our universities are a little bit, you know, they've got a different prestige, and they usually offer everything, but they only do a few things really well. And that's a little bit hard. So you should definitely talk to friends and family who have been to Australia to navigate, where should I go if I want to study a certain thing. What else? Yeah, and then like, the other thing is that Australians, our undergraduate degree is never usually enough for a lot of specialized fields. So a lot of, like, if you want to be a doctor in Australia, you have to do a bachelor's and then a master's degree, plus lots of work experience along the way, for example. And it's the same in a lot of other fields. So a lot of Australians study for a really long continuous period, whereas in Indonesia, my understanding is more people do 4 years of study, go off, work for a bit, come back, do a master's once they get married or once they maybe have some kids, and then they might go back later on and do their PhD when the kids have grown up a bit more. And there's more of that culture of lifelong learning, which Australia needs. Australia needs that. Like we really are, it's just the job market in Australia is ridiculously tough as well, depending on what you want to do and who you are. So I hope that's sort of answered your question, Yusril. I don't want to get into I could do a whole presentation just on the education systems. It's something I'm very interested in, very passionate about. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thanks a lot about that, about your answer, Mr.
Come on.
Ada yang mau tanya, silahkan. Yang lain, ayo disiapkan pertanyaannya. Hi, Sang. Long time no see you.
Likewise, how are you?
How you going?
I'm all right.
Have you explained about maybe our experience in playing with Krakatoas and also how to maintain the relationship between Indonesian and Australian young people through those kind of sport, maybe?
Yeah, I think like you're right. Like sport is such an incredible opportunity to bridge cultures. Like, so the Krakatoas was a really fun experiment with really getting, and it's actually a really good lesson. It was a good learning curve for me because I'm a bit of a serious person sometimes, and Krakatoas was just like, let's have fun, let's just hang out, and like let's just kick the footy and like the football, and let's just try. And what was really cool was there was all these Indonesians who are awesome at sport. Y'all are fast. Like very, very quick. And it was always quite funny. Like the Australians are trying to keep up. We can't keep up with chunky people. You know, we were having a lot of fun, and it was very cool to see stuff like the Consulate General, like Ibu Speaker at the time. Speaker Tuta Hatanewa, she came along and like kicked the ball around. And, you know, we've got all these people who never get very involved in, you know, they would be very formal in their engagement to have fun. And I think there's a really undervalued importance in just having fun when you're connecting with people, to not get too, let's talk about diplomacy and the hubungan bilateral, and it was just fun. And like, you know, we met really random people through it. I think the Indonesians probably met some people they would never, ever, ever meet. Like there was this whole team of Irish backpackers that we played against, and they were huge and they were lovely, but they all played like Irish Gaelic football, which is like rough. And they struggled, and they really got frustrated because we played like a really low game. But afterwards they came over and they had a chat and they hung out and they wanted to have dinner, and like Indonesians got to meet people off campus. And you know, it's what like was said at the start by Alfu about like getting beyond the books, you know, getting outside of the classroom. It's what we talked about earlier about it might be a bit scary doing this thing that's a bit random, a bit strange, and you have no reference point to, like, what is this oval ball? What is like these big people? But it was non-contact and we made it fun. And you know, it was a way for people to overcome their fear by just going 2 feet first and having a go. And I think a lot of people's English got really bloody good by the end of it, I would say as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So anyway, I'd like to ask to my students first, with your speaking speed rate, guys, do you understand with what Sam spoke for the whole 30 minutes or about 45 minutes? Did you understand
It's okay.
the points maybe? Because I think speaking speed rate of your English is quite maybe advanced for them. So I think, did you get the point? Hello? How many percent of Sam's explanation that you got during this session? Above 50%? Anyone?
It's amazing.
Oh, sorry to say that, because I know that you deliver your presentation very well, and it's very amazing and interesting. Thank you so much, Sam. And I just want to make sure that my students can keep up with what you explained before, and also they are able to get the point of your presentation.
Yeah, and like, I'm more than happy for you guys to share the slides afterwards, and the recording, of course, and all of that. Like, and I would encourage you all to, you know, take some notes afterwards, pick up some key phrases, things that you would like to try and use. That's how you get better. And don't be upset that you don't understand 100% of it. That would be the other thing, is be excited that you understand some of it. That's growth mindset. That's that positivity. Positivity breeds possibility. That's what I told my students. But yeah, I really appreciate the time and enthusiasm and energy from all of you. Terima kasih banyak for all of that.
Yeah, all right. So actually, learning language itself, it's not quite difficult, but learning the culture and also understand other people that speak different with us, it's challenging. It's quite challenging for me myself, because if we learn language, maybe we can understand what the meaning, but the meaning beyond what we speak, the meaning beyond what we act to people, to behave with people, is also challenging. So anyone, please ask something to Sam, because Sam has already spent he spent his time to talk to us. Please use this chance and opportunity to ask something, maybe about Australia, maybe about learning English. Maybe you want to share your experience learning English, for example. Silahkan, Mbak Tuti, mungkin. Or if you want to ask using Indonesian, Sam will understand it well, I think.
We'll find out.
Iya kan?
Insyaallah.
Insyaallah katanya.
So we've got something from Azura. Is that who it is?
Azura.
Yeah, Azura. Sorry, I couldn't see the whole thing. So you've asked, can you explain your opinions about ideas to make communities grow? Oh, yeah, I can. I have lots of ideas. I think where it starts from is, to grow a community, you need to understand, what does a community hold? What does a community care about? What does a community want? That's really the thing. So when I did IAIN, Pertukaran Pemuda Indonesia Australia, when I did that program, there was a thing with like the Kepala Desa, where they were like, what do you want to do in our village? And we were like, what? No, what do you want us to do? And we only had about 10 days of actually working there because it was holidays and bits and pieces going on. But while we were there, we spent about the first 3 days just talking and learning about these people. Who are they? What do they like? You know, we were really close to Pantai Bira. We made an assumption that maybe they want some tourism, but they didn't. They don't want the tourists there. They were a little uncomfortable about like all these wong putih rolling around their town. They didn't really like that. They didn't want their kids being over-influenced by foreigners. That's fine. Let's respect that. What else could we do? What do they want? They wanted more money. They wanted this. They wanted that. Well, what can they do? We found there was an incredible business building. So that the town I was in is one of the last places Kapal Pinisi is still built from scratch, which is incredible. And they build these little tiny miniature ones. And so we worked with them about how can they market them online. We did a program because there's a lot of, the parents were very busy with their businesses and the kids were very bored. There wasn't a lot going on. And so we ran sports programs. We actually ran an AFL clinic and built an AFL field because they wanted to engage with each other and they wanted girls and boys to play sport together. And I mentioned earlier, this was a very conservative area. So they didn't really have a lot of opportunities for boys and girls to play sports together or to really interact. And there was a few issues that was going on. And basically, we learned that what they wanted was to prosper. They wanted to prosper financially, socially. They wanted to prosper in lots and lots of ways. And so to go to your question, Azura, how do you grow a community? You water the garden that they care about. You find out what they care about, how they can help themselves, and you get them to believe in themselves. And your community will not just grow while you're there, it'll grow well beyond you being there. Because that's what I've done over the years. I've gone in, pulled out the weeds in the garden, you know, taken out the bits and pieces that don't work in a community project, and I've put in the things that do work and built up the strength of individuals who may be a bit too shy or a bit too careful to really bring themselves to the front and be leaders. And I've done that just over and over and over again, especially in the youth space. That's kind of my experience. That's what I did with Krakatau's. That's what I've done, like lots of examples. But I hope that answers your question, Azura. To grow a community, find out what they care about, find out how they can support themselves, and help them believe in themselves. That's really it.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your answer.
Hello, Mbak Azura. Do you want to ask something?
I just say thank you.
All right. So anyone, please. Ayo. Ask anything. Yusril. Mas Yusril.
Okay, so I want to ask a question again. When you're in Indonesia, I bet you're bound to run into folks who don't understand English completely, or it's unimportant, like, why should I learn English, blah, 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 blah.
I lost you halfway through. What was your question again, sorry?
Okay. So when you're in Indonesia, I think you're bound to run into folks who don't understand English completely or think that English is unimportant. Like, why should I learn English? Or I'm in Indonesia, I don't need to learn English. So how do you overcome these people? Thank you.
Cool question. I don't. I work with them. And we, you know, like if I'm my Indonesian used to be pretty good. So I was usually the penerjemahan amongst my friends. I was usually the translator amongst my friends. And I still have friends who want to go to Bali and want me to translate when they go to Bali and all that. I don't love Bali. I'm not going to be shy about saying that. But the thing is, it's that I have this very deep principle of respect. It's one thing when I've been like a teacher and stuff that's sort of maybe been, I've never been this kind of teacher that's like, you know, duduk, 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 you know, tutup mulut anak nakal. I've never been that kind of teacher. I've never like really been okay with that. So when I did have people who didn't want to speak English with me, I was excited because that was my opportunity to practice. But when I've been in situations where people don't want to talk to me at all, and it's because I'm a foreigner, which is pretty rare, but there are, you know, some more usually more like elderly people who maybe have had some bad experiences and things like that. I just have to respect that and not force it. And it's the same thing if you come to Australia and someone's not being real polite. I'm not going to lie. Like there are times I've had, like I've like taken groups of Indonesians into country Victoria, into country Australia, and there was some people who were a bit rude. You don't have to be a hero and try and change every person if they're being a bit rude. You know, some of these people had some not very nice things to say about some of the girls who were wearing jilbabs and about Islam. And I just said to them, ignore them, keep walking. You don't actually have to, you know, fix people. That's not our job. So, you know, like usually people not speaking English in Indonesia, it's just more like a great opportunity for me to practice my Indonesian. The few times people were angry or upset, I would just avoid them. There's no need for me to try and get myself into a bad situation. And those few times where someone didn't speak English and I didn't speak good enough Indonesian, I would, like I talked about before, we had the situation where people didn't even just not speak Indonesian, they spoke not even Japanese. They spoke like this very, very local dialect of Japanese. So we just worked through it with body language at first, and then realized there were some very clever young people and empowered them and gave them a bit of a role in the meeting as our translators and helpers. And then, you know, we worked out what did they want, how could we pay them back? Because money isn't necessarily what people always want. And so we helped them to set up a youth club in their town, and they helped us with translations, and I helped them with English homework. And so there's a lot of, you know, mutual support when it is necessary to engage with these people, and when they're not being rude and horrible and mean as well. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. It's just connect with people on their terms, take it as a learning opportunity, but don't be a hero. If people are going to be mean, awful and rude, it's okay to disconnect. It's okay to step away. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks about the answer. That means a lot.
So Wanda, Ramawati, you are asking about membership. Let me cari linknya, AIYA, membership. I will put a link in the chat. So there's all the details about the IA membership and who can become and the pricing, and their website's improved. I haven't looked at their website in a little while and it looks really pretty now. You'd be, oh, wow. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but because I've been very involved in a lot of organizations and then I've taken a step back and then you come back to an organization, and they've done all the things they said they were going to do, and it looks so good. Anyway, I'm distracted by a very pretty website. To answer your question, Wanda, anyone can join. We have like high school students in Australia who've come along to our programs in Melbourne straight after school, still in their school uniform and things like that. We're very welcoming.
Are you still working in there? Are you still working there? No anymore.
No, I've graduated. I'm a bit kuno. I feel a bit too kuno for it. Clarice is still doing it, but that's because she's Clarice and she's amazing. No, I moved on because there was so much talent coming up, and I felt like I'd done 6 years. I was going to let people have some opportunity and space to step up and be able to take on really cool roles. And so, because that's another thing, you know, when you're involved in stuff, when you're building communities, sometimes you got to also recognize when you're not needed anymore. And it's not a sad thing, it's actually really exciting.
Is it because you are not a Monash like Indonesian major students anymore, and then you just live?
No, like I was still volunteering when I was like an employee, when I was working and career and all of that. So yeah, they have student and then professional memberships, and so I was a professional for a couple of years as well. But it was just simply like I had a moment in my storm of things that I do where at some point I went, oh, I'm not the most important thing. If I leave, it's not going to collapse. It's going to evolve. It's going to become something new and exciting. And I love that. I'm excited for whatever it becomes. And so I just kind of had that moment of realization. Had some wonderful mentors who helped me understand that. Sometimes you got to let go to allow it to grow. So yeah, you guys can, it's easier to become members when there's a chapter locally, but if you want to establish a chapter, you can always reach out to Clarice as well.
How many chapters in Indonesia actually? Because I only know that there are in Yogyakarta and then Jakarta and Surabaya, I think, and also Makassar maybe.
Yeah, I think Makassar is still running. I think there was a Bandung chapter as well. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 5 or 6 chapters. There was always a Bali chapter. But...
Jadi kalau yang tertarik mau ikut komunitasnya ini Australian-Indonesian Youth Association, itu ada beberapa chapter lokalnya di Jogja dan ada sering beberapa pertemuan tiap minggu atau tiap bulannya itu dia ada di Jogja, Jakarta, Surabaya, terus mana lagi Sam?
Bandung, Jakarta, Jogja, Jatim, Makassar.
Yang paling dekat Yogyakarta. Semarang belum ya?
Saya kira itu aja.
Itu aja.
Gimana? Where are about chapters? Here's the link.
Ya ada chapters. Itu sering ada pertemuan diskusi baik offline atau online. Kalau yang tertarik mau belajar budaya bahasa Inggris itu di situ. Namanya AIA, Australian-Indonesian Youth Association.
NTT. Ada Jakarta, Jabar, Nusa Tenggara Timur, Sulawesi Selatan, dan Yogyakarta. Di Indonesia.
Do you understand about the program of UniBridge? Is it still exist currently or not?
Saya kira masih ada UniBridge, tapi juga ada LX online karena COVID. So para mulai COVID mereka establish yang ada koneksi antar chapter di mereka bisa berjabatan dengan program itu yang online. Language exchange itu program yang ada orang Indonesia dan orang Australia yang berkumpul dan diskusi topik-topik yang penting atau topik yang menarik, mungkin tentang sinetron, mungkin tentang politikus, terserah. So yeah, ada program itu yang biasanya itu di dalam classroom. So usually it's a class program. Tapi karena COVID itu menjadi online, and now saya kira itu blended. So it's both online and offline. But yeah, and there's still lots of, the thing with IA is it's not just like language exchange, it's not just community. There's like exclusive activities and events, there's initiatives, there's like competitions like NILA, which is the National Australia-Indonesia Language Awards. There's mentoring, there's so many, I mean, it's gotten so much, there's so many things going on now, but the one that you guys would probably really find interesting is NILA, and there's a category for Indonesians as well, or there used to be at least. It's just
and the prize as well, of course, the prize.
Oh yeah, there's
I've been involved in NILA 2018 or 19, and I just some of my friends they got winner. Ada, jadi setiap tahun itu ada lomba NILA seperti Festival Bahasa Indonesia gitu loh Bu, dan itu boleh diikuti oleh orang Australia dan orang Indonesia. Dan hadiahnya lumayan itu.
Yeah,
sampai puluhan juta.
I actually organized that and designed that program. I forget about all the things that I did. It's good to have you to remind me.
Yeah, it's all stuff for you. It's all stuff for you.
I used to do so much. I used to do like 4 workshops a week, and then IO and other things. It's like my brain is like porridge. It's a bubur. After doing it I've been a facilitator for more than 10 years. Really 15 years I've been facilitating programs. But yeah, FBBE, we would love to have that to run again, but with COVID and all of that, we tried to kind of find ways to do it. And yeah, Smolga, we'll have some more things afterwards, but that was like getting
Yeah, if it's getting better after COVID, I think there will be a travel grant as well if they got an ILA prize.
Yeah. Lots of
probably. Yeah. Akan bisa dapat tiket ke Australia kalau All right, I'll get it back to the moderator. So thank you so much, Sam, for this joyful session with you this afternoon. It's already 9 p.m. here, and I think it's already 4 there or 5?
4.
4. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for you all, can open your camera. We take picture together. Open your camera, guys. I'll take picture.
Mr. Munir, would you like to help us? Mr. Munir? Yeah. Take photo. Ready for the first slide? Okay. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Next. Next. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Finish? Next slide. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Repeat, repeat. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Cheers. Yeah. Next slide. Is there? Okay, that's all. One more, one more. Okay, one more, please. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so thank you for Miss Sam. Mr. Sam. Saking groginya sampai lupa. Thank you for Mr. Sam for join with us and give a lot. Apa ya? Yeah, so we can give applause to Mr. Sam. Ya, sekian dari kami. This all from us. Thank you for participate and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Semua yang bertugas berada di sini, jangan lupa semua ada di sini ya. So, communication sama publik yang apa ya? Yang ini yang koneksi dalam itu yang terus untuk apa tadi ya evaluasinya ya. Make sure kalau semuanya sudah disesuaikan, tapi kalau sedih, sudah disesuaikan semua, ada kan? let's say they know dulu daripada kita. Kalau sudah semuanya, oke, let's start. Mulai. Kita mau sudah mulai Pak. Saya tuh mau. Saya belum tahu ya, belum tahu sih. Oke, ini pembelajaran, ini evaluasi. Masa kita perlu belajar ya. Ini saling mengingatkan, komunikasi penting. Itu ya. Jadi kalau belum besok lagi, kita perbaiki. Ya, kita perbaiki. Jadi saling komunikasi, saling membantu gimana caranya kita bisa. Oke, itu ya. Kalau nggak tahu, kalau apa, tanya. Gimana ya, gitu. Kalau kita akan zoom kasih dulu, saya kasih dulu. Zoom itu. Ya, jadi kita komunikasi kalau kita ya mungkin kita ada cukup atau apa perjalanan ya, lalu berbeda mengalir kesempatan. Ya, yang ada, make sure kita harus zoom dan belum ada jam 8. Ternyata salah, ternyata yang ragu. Nah, ini kan yang masuk juga itu untuk kita yang melakukan itu ya. Itu juga menjadi evaluasi kita. 1 minggu ya itu harus sudah aktif. 1 minggu dan itu sudah bisa juga ke sana. Jadi tenang. Ini materi kok kan. Kita kalau Zoom itu kalau baru dibikin, dilarang pakai kode yang lain, nggak bisa. Kita harus cari yang lain, di aplikasi yang lain. Alhamdulillah aplikasi nggak ada, alhamdulillah langsung buatkan makam itu masuk. Alhamdulillah kita kecil tadi ya. Jadi itu pembelajaran semuanya. Oh ternyata begini kau manage ini. Oh ternyata begini kau bikin buat apa namanya seminar online. Terus online baru cerita well itu ya teman-teman ya. Oke ya. Jadi ini jadi pembelajaran organisasi seperti ini. Ya intinya apa? Komunikasi. Itu kan komunikasi dan saling membantu. Berikan komunikasi. Cuma ini soal ini. Ya, oke. Alhamdulillah kita bersyukur sudah selesai dengan well. Ya, meskipun kita seperti awal, tapi selesai itu sudah koneksinya sudah bagus sudah alhamdulillah karena banyak yang sudah berjalan itu banyak itu masih alhamdulillah karena belum itu ya. Oke, terima kasih semuanya ya. Terima kasih Mbak Umi dan kawan-kawan Alicia. Jadi nanti kita bisa dengarkan lagi pada program-program yang lain semoga bermanfaat semua. Jadi kritikannya Anda pernah aktif, yang barunya tanya yang ini karena ini kesempatan, gitu ya. Oke, thank you. Itu ya, yuk, teman-teman.